ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the newest edition of AmiSights. I'm Ami Kassar, your host, along with my co-host, Lynn Ozer, aka SBA Queen. Super happy to have my friend and business coach, life coach, exercise coach, change coach, whatever you want to call him, Danny Martoe, with me here. And Danny has helped me personally through my journey of transforming my horrible, horrific exercise and nutrition habits. And so without further ado, we're happy to invite Danny onto the show. Danny, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here with all of you.
Danny, what makes you tick, buddy?
Performance. I'm obsessed with performance. Other people's performance, my own performance, my children's, my family's, the whole nine. I'm obsessed. I may not be as successful with, guiding my children as I am my clients, but I still get an A for effort.
It's a lot different when you're working with your family members. I am sure of that.
All of my tried and true practices have failed miserably.
Well, welcome. Did you buy that book, The Teenage Brain, we talked about?
I did. I haven't gotten to it yet. I'm too busy dealing with the teenage brain. So
okay.
Oh, I'm glad that's in my rearview mirror.
No, I have 4 children. I have a 17-year-old. I have a 6-year-old son. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and I have a 6-month-old daughter. Yes.
Whoa.
So I'm back in the game.
You sure are. But there's a lot to be said for that game. I miss those youngins. I'm dying to have ones that I can send home.
One day, take your time. Take your time. So Danny, let's backtrack a little bit. Talk about some of your career transformations you've gone through.
Yeah, so they weren't planned, which I think is always nice, right? It was rather organic. And I was talking before you jumped on here about going to West Virginia University, right? I had grown up a sports fan and I had played sports at a high level within high school. And then I had these dreams of going, I think I watched the movie Rudy too much and had these dreams of going to West Virginia University, which is a powerhouse sports school, and walking on to play football. When I got there, I had worked so hard to basically, they kind of laughed at me a little bit. Now, I'm in good shape and I'm not the smallest guy, but when you look at the way these factories are, I was far away. I had a lot of heart, but physically wasn't there. So from there, I started studying, getting to know a lot of the actual athletes on the team. And so going to school as a normal student and really, hanging around with a lot of these athletes, I became a DJ as my part-time job and ended up graduating. And I had several friends that actually went into the NFL. So I had about 12 of them that were drafted. I then moved into New York City after college and started, working at UBS in the financial services world. And without really a plan, started to get some calls from some of these guys that were in the NFL. And, they asked me to help them out. And before you know it, my entire book of business were professional athletes. And it wasn't really my choice. It was exciting as a young man. But as you are aware, dealing with an athlete's finances can be tricky. And after some time, I realized I wanted to move up on the totem pole, so to say, and really work towards being an agent. I had the relationships. And so that's when I started working in the agent world. I caught on with the largest agency, a guy named Drew Rosenhaus, based here in Miami Beach, Florida. And, he was the part of the movie Jerry Maguire was based on him. So I moved down to Miami, started working in that business. And that's where I spent as a sports agent, not with him, but various companies, about 15 years, I'd say. So the biggest transition for me was moving from sports into what I'm doing today. And what had happened was I was always in great shape as a young man and working out, had plenty of time, but then started to get busy within the sports business and traveling all around, and had my daughter, my first child. And, it was like I started to lose time, as we all do, as busy professionals do. And it was one day I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I was like, who's this guy? And I really didn't recognize who I saw. I had gained a tremendous amount of weight. I was up to about 275 pounds, which is about 70 pounds overweight for me. And while I was physically, not looking good internally, I was really off balance. My blood work was a mess health-wise. My relationships were far from ideal. And at that time, I didn't realize it, but I was far away from being the best father that I could be. So I decided that I needed to do something. Life is too short, and I was on a path to an early death. So, I searched around, and while I could say it was one program or technique, it was really a switch that went off in my head that I needed to make a change. And so I managed to get on the other side of that. I lost, I'd say, about 55 pounds in 8 weeks. I went on to lose the full, call it 70 pounds, and never really turned back. And at that time, I was commuting from Miami to Atlanta. I was I was the president of a well-known sports agency, when you lose 75 pounds, everyone notices, right? It's like you've lost a person. So they were all asking, hey, what did you do? What happened? And so I started guiding some friends and family and just helping them on the side. And, they would come back to me and say, I'm walking my dog, I'm making my bed, my relationship's better than it's ever been. I had my best quarter of business. And while they all lost weight and got healthy, it was these ancillary benefits, I'd say, that really moved me and I found quite rewarding. And being a sports agent, it's fun, it's exciting, it's more of a young man's game. It's a bit soul-sucking. So these rewarding feelings were nice for a change. So then I said, you know what, maybe I have something here. So I started doing it a bit on the side, a little moonlighting with a friend at the time. And then it caught fire. I managed to start working with the right people. The demand became so much that I couldn't do both anymore. And for me, it was the best choice for me career-wise. It was a fulfilling change for me. And, having a young family, being a sports agent is not the best position to have the young family that I do. So it's now been about 5 years. It's been a labor of love. And while I started as a strict weight loss coach, that has morphed and transitioned into a life of its own. So that's kind of the long answer to your question. That was really my biggest transition. And I'm still transitioning as a coach every day, I'd say.
It sounds like your educational background and your business background is business. How did nutrition filter into this? Or was it just because you figured out a system that worked for you and that's what you share is your own personal system? Or how did you get into that?
Well, I did leave one thing out. So when I got back from college, I did take up a job as a personal trainer before I jumped into Wall Street. It wasn't that long. I did end up running my own business and ended up doing a lot of networking there. So I had a good base knowledge. I had a background in sports. I was an amateur boxer in addition to playing sports. So I always had that fuel and that interest. It's something I grew up doing. But then realizing you get to a certain point, men and women, as we get older, our hormones get out of whack, our sex hormones plummet. And there came a point where all the workouts in the world couldn't move the needle. So you always hear the eating is the biggest part, right? We hear it all the time. We don't really pay attention to it. But that's when I was able to experiment and experience my firsthand what helped me transition myself physically and my own health. I realized what a powerful tool it was, not only for your own health, but also to learn the technique and skill of behavior change, right? Because similar to sports, learning in a classroom and learning out in the field are much different. When you're out and doing something physical, you do get instant feedback. So not only is nutrition a cornerstone of my program to get healthy, but it's also the cornerstone to learn behavior change, because I don't care who you are, if you start doing things a little bit more healthier, you're going to get instant feedback. You're going to get confidence. You're going to start to do better. And then once that skill of making change gets ingrained in you, then that's when you can really apply it to all domains of your life.
Right.
And then I went further. I'm sorry. I got my nutritional certifications. I started experimenting more, and then working with people like Ami and other men and women out there. I realized that, it's not really a one size fits all either.
Interesting.
So well, let me ask this. I'm happy to talk about maybe my own experiences if we want to, but what do you think, if there's one thing in particular that triggers people to start working with you?
Typically, it's a life type of a wake-up call, right? It's a visit to the doctor. It's a major life event, like they have a wedding of their child or their cousin, and they go to put on the outfit and they don't have anything, right? Or they see photos of an event they were at. It's an experience where they go for a certain workout they used to do, and they feel a certain way. So it's unfortunately most wait till they get news. And there are some people that I'll get introduced to that know that they should do something, but they haven't had any kind of a scare yet. So it's almost like they're waiting for that to start. So that's typically what happens when people decide to do something with me. I would say there is a small percentage, and I think it equates to the overall small percentage in our country here, that are real proactive about it, right? And I would say these are the high performers. And if you look at their lives, they are this way across all domains, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've written about it, and I'll share with the listeners a little bit about my own journey, and then how I met Danny, and what triggered me into all this is that I would say that for a highly rational person, my attitude or my behavior around nutrition and exercise for pretty much all my whole life has been absolutely a complete outlier for anything that you would consider to be rational. And I never considered myself to be obese, but I knew I was always out of shape. And I've had starts and misses along my journey. And I heard Danny speak at a EO talk at EO Minnesota maybe 6 months ago. I don't know, something like that. And to be honest, I found it all to be totally overwhelming. That there was so much information downloaded in a matter of a couple of hours, I couldn't process a quarter of it. But I liked them. And then we kind of stayed in touch a little bit. I was trying to help him like I try to help people. And then I really thought, and I would say to anyone out there that is in the forum, and a lot of our listeners are in forum, I thought Danny's content would be exceptional as a forum facilitator, and then to put a forum into a kind of group and an accountability group around wellness. And so I tried to get Danny to come do that to our forum retreat, which was 3 months ago or so. And the members who were organizing it didn't pick him for their own good reasons. And then I was pissed off and I said, fuck it, I'm just going to hire Danny myself. Okay. Because I wanted to give him a shot. And so I don't know if Danny remembers the time we interviewed and talked about having him hire me. I was literally like wolfing down Hershey Kisses right through the interview, because I said, well, Jesus, if I'm going to do this, I better get one of my last sugar in here.
You also had the bike ride at your forum retreat as well.
Yeah, that's right. And then the forum bike retreat started. We went on a bike ride, and it was about 3 miles, and I thought I was going to about die. And that was a trigger for me. But for me, as I started with Danny, he sent me to there's a test called a DEXA scan.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, Lynn. Like, I think the name can be a little confusing, because DEXA scan is typically like a bone density test. But, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Danny, there's another test that does some bone density, but it's also a general body fat composition test. Is that fair, Danny?
Yeah, it's the same test. One of the byproducts of the test is that it's the most accurate measurement of body fat. So you get 2 in 1, basically.
And so I went to have this test right when I was starting with Danny, and it gave me, I'm 55, it gave me a biological age of a 59-year-old, which didn't really shock me. Okay, it wasn't the end of the world. Then it gave me an overall body grade of a C-, which also wasn't a total shocker, but wasn't great. But the most frightening thing for me was that it told me that I had 8.4 pounds of visceral fat in my body. And I didn't really know what visceral fat was, but I quickly learned that that's fat attached to organs and stuff like that, which is really the worst kind of shit. And you're supposed to have like a half a pound or a pound of it. And I had 8.4 pounds. And I'm like, that's got to go. And then I started. So, and then I just got determined and focused. And Danny's program and the methodology has really, and the discipline of it. And I think I'm 12 weeks in. He kind of gave me a little bit of an extension from 10 weeks to 12 weeks. Little side trip to Singapore and Phuket in the way that kind of created a little bit of a distraction. But here we are. And thanks to this guy that you're either listening to or seeing, I'm down 20 pounds and feeling way better, even though I almost fired my whole team a couple of times in the first week or two as I was detoxing from sugar.
Yeah, I have to say that Ami, I work with a lot of, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on this call here, but I work with a lot of men and women, and similar to what I said before, those high achievers, right? And I'm a firm believer in how you do anything is how you do everything. And what it sounds like to me is Ami started looking around his life and saying, I do all these things, right? I've checked the boxes here, but this is one area I'm not really applying my methodologies to. So when he started to do that and he made the connection, which happens with a lot of successful men and women and professionals, they tend to put the business before themselves. But then when they realize that when they start putting themselves first, that they show up even better for their business. And that's an aha moment. And but Ami took to the program. I mean, he was extremely disciplined. He followed everything that I asked him to do. And
almost everything.
Just about, I'd say. I mean, listen, if you stick with 80%, you're going to have major success.
Yeah.
And 20 pounds, while I said, hey, I lost, 50 pounds, I was also over 260 pounds, right? So 20 pounds to his overall percentage of weight is significant. So it's, my hat off to you, Ami, for just sticking with it, following through, and and honoring your commitment overall. So, it was fun. It was fun to work with him. And I look forward to continuing as well.
Yeah.
I think that the accountability piece is really something that probably gives people the ability to stick with it, don't you? I think doing it on your own is so difficult and so easy to say, forget it, you know?
Yeah.
You
And I
agree?
was thinking before, if you were to ask me, what are the ingredients? What is it? And I used to think that it was, hey, the nutrition, the workouts, it was like the X's and the O's. But as I've coached more and more, I've realized that one, it is the accountability, right? When you're on your own, there's one layer, and whether it's your partner, your family, it's not their job to hold you accountable, and it never works when they try to.
That's right.
We keep our plans to ourselves, and when that one layer of accountability peels away, we're out of the game, right? And when you are working with a coach or within a group, particularly, I've designed the program so that there are multiple layers of accountability, so that if one does go away, there are many more that will keep you in it. But another part, I would say, foundational part of the program is awareness, is really cultivating that self-awareness. And that starts on our first call. I call it a GPS call to really find out, hey, where are we? How did we get here? Because before we can even talk about where we want to go and how we get there, this has to be established, because there are a lot of people that are walking around, right, just looking at their phones, not paying attention or having any self-awareness as to their own behaviors, their impact of those behaviors on their own health and those loved ones around them. And you'll think about something that doesn't feel good, right? It's not comfortable, and we tend to push it in the back of our head. I like to bring those things out front and center and attach as much emotion to the things that we want to do. And that's why we want to make the change we want to. And then the last thing is the strategy is everyone, it's not that we don't have the will to want to make change. It's not like we're bad for not being successful. We are up against opponents that humans have never seen before. We live in an age of, Uber Eats and drive-throughs and, food scientists pushing certain things in our faces all the time. It's the most challenging times to be healthy. So strategy is key, and creating a rhythm for your life is really what it's all about. So accountability, awareness, and strategy, I would say, are the special ingredients to what makes it work.
And lots of blueberries.
Blueberries, lots of berries. You've graduated from blueberries, though, Ami.
I know.
Greener pastures.
I still learn to like them, man.
They're great.
Let's talk for listeners. Maybe you could share a little bit of how your program works and what's involved.
So there's, I like to mix. My experiences are what led me to where I'm at. I never said, hey, I want to be a coach. I never knew that there was this world of coaching that existed until I started really coaching. So, I've now have diversified a lot into what I'm doing. So, there's the typical, I would say, deep health coaching, which is, my job I look at is to help you get the best out of yourself and the things that you care most about. And to find a sustainable method that you can do over the long haul. And for some, they want to get healthy. Some want to perform at a high level in a hobby or a sport. Some of it is in their own business. So I work with men and women in a one-on-one setting. I also do men's and women's groups where it's more of a competitive format. There's a lot of gamification and it's fun. So, and then I'll mix them up. So I'll take my one-on-one clients and we'll use the competitions as a laboratory or a practice field that they can try some of the new techniques and habits and behaviors that they do want to activate in their lives. And that's always fun. And then I've found myself doing speaking engagements like I did for EO in Minnesota. And I've also done a host of corporate challenges where we mix, I'd say about 80% health and wellness with about 20% professional development. And the thought process there is, I do have my background in business and I love to apply certain techniques. And when you're getting healthy and you're getting down to your foundation of making change, it's the greatest time to start implementing some new things. So I'll get together with the owner of the business. He'll talk about, or they will talk about places they want to see change, and together we'll craft a challenge or a competition, and it's fun. There's a lot of team building, team dynamics. So yeah, that really sums up my coaching. I'm starting to get into more of the EO world and wanting to do more foreign retreats and more speaking engagements there. And that's something that Ami has assisted me with as well.
That's great.
I would say to the listeners out there that, again, there's lots of ways to do it, but I'm convinced that if you want to, sometimes forums create themes for a year. I know some forums who wellness is their theme for the year. And we don't have themes in our forum, although our last retreat was about wellness. But I think Danny and sometimes forums have facilitators who come in and help with the retreat. Most forums go away once a year for 72 hours. And oftentimes those facilitators work on life goals and growth plans and vision boards, different things like that. But if you really want to dig in deep and dig into the root of wellness and then help the forum put a plan together for the year, it really, Danny Martoe could really do an amazing job for you to do that, and would encourage everyone to think about that. So.
Thank you.
How about individual practice? How do people how do people find you if they're just someone not in a forum?
So typically it's really, I would say if I look at all my clients, there are maybe one of them that is maybe a cold type of, someone saw me on social media. Everything is 6 degrees of separation within my program, which I like.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always good.
And so, if anyone's listening to this and is interested, I am on social media. I'm not active. I am not one of these coaches that is out there too much, just because I'm pretty busy with the practice itself. But I'd be happy to provide my details, contact details, or if you know Ami can make an introduction as well. And typically it's an introduction from one of my clients.
That's great.
Share your website with everyone, Danny.
It's agentofchange.org. You can contact me there, or Coach Danny Martoe or Danny Martoe on LinkedIn. It's Coach Danny Martoe on Instagram and just Danny Martoe on Facebook. So I do have profiles. You can reach me there. And if anyone is interested in a free coaching call, I'd be happy to do that, to give you a little taste of my style and see if it's a fit, because that's important. It's got to be a fit for both sides.
Awesome.
That's true. Right.
Danny, what questions should we have asked you that we didn't?
Well, there's one thing I do want to mention that I didn't before, and that was, there's a lot of, similar to when you sat down at that retreat, that event in Minnesota, where you found it was just too much information. Believe it or not, that wasn't the format I wanted, right? I had to present in that manner. I like to get into the weeds, right? There is so much information out there, especially now with social media, where they're telling you what you can do. Hey, these are techniques. This is the best way to eat, best way to drink, the supplements. there's so much noise out there that it can become challenging. And for me, my hyper focus is on the actual application, right? How do we take these great techniques that exist, that are out there, but how do we make it happen, right? How do we actually implement them and fit them into your life? And that skill can be used for nutrition. It could be used for something that's been on your to-do list for way too long, for a project around your house, or, even within relationships. So that's, while I am obsessed with performance, it's really about the application, and how we put these things into real life, that I would say is a foundational part of what I do.
I love it.
It's great. Yeah.
Lynn, when are you going to sign up for Danny?
Women's group is rocking,
Yeah, it's great.
I have co-ed groups too. It's fun. It's fun. I'm enjoying it, and feel like I'm just scratching the surface here. So I'm excited for what's to come.
That's great.
All right, everybody. Danny, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your insight with us, and we'll catch up with you real soon later this week, buddy. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Danny. Great to meet you.